And we're live, guys. We're live. Happy Monday morning. Monday's a
Sausage
good
fest.
litmus test. Guy, let's start with this. Monday's a good litmus test. I read on Twitter the way you feel Sunday night about the next day is a good barometer for what you need to change in your life, career wise. So, other than feeling like a little the beginnings of a quasi hangover yesterday, Sunday night, I actually didn't feel bad. Like I like what I do. Um, but that's it. That is a good litmus test for. Do you guys agree with that? How you feel
Sure.
Sunday night?
If you dread the next forthcoming day, you probably need a new career.
But people do that all the time,
I
man, and they just accept it.
beforehand, I call it the Sunday blues, man. It's every Sunday, you never fails. It's just you're like I don't want money to happen. I'm afraid to go to bed because I know what's going to happen. Since I resigned from my day job and I started doing my own thing, something really weird happened. Mondays turned into my Saturdays because I bust my butt so much on the weekend that by Monday I just want to rest while everyone else is checking up on their emails.
Yeah,
It's kind of weird.
You're in the startup phase too. You're actually perfect as we have three side owners here.
Mhm.
So this is Dr. Fox from CRPN Network, Chris Sabra down here, Breakthrough Clinical Trials, CRMD, and me from Human Clinical Trials. Three different stages. So Dr. Fox, maybe like let's start with that. Pre-opening your own site, right? When you were
Mhm.
an employee,
Yep.
even a high-ranking employee, how did
Yep.
you feel about like Sunday nights?
Dreaded it. I call it
No
the
joke,
Sunday
no joke.
blues. No joke. My wife, they knew it. Like the last half of Sunday, so Sunday afternoon going in the evening, my wife already knew. She knew that that's kind of like my time where I'm literally just getting into a bad mood. I'm dreading the time that I'm going to have. I'm dreading all those emails that I'm going to be getting on Monday morning. I'm dreading all the people who are going to be yelling at me and having no control over fixing it. It was it was like a ritual. It was a very toxic ritual.
Wow.
And
And how long did you like persist through this ritual?
3.5 years,
Hmm.
3.5 years, every single Sunday, it was boom, boom, boom. Missed out on family time, missed out on all these events. Hey, do you want to do this on Sunday? Nope, sorry, it's my Sunday blues ritual. I'm probably not going to be good to be around. So I don't want to be around family.
So
It
what'd you do Sunday nights? Like watch Game of Thrones or
uh, got on my computer, hung out, just slept. There's a lot of sleeping involved, so I would just take a nap. Like I didn't want to experience the Sunday blues, so I just kind of checked out.
wow. What about you, Chris? Before you became a site owner, well, you were working for me for a while, like way, 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 way back in the days.
Yeah, I
Did
worked
you
for you
ever have
for a
Sunday
couple of years.
blues?
Um, not the way that Dr. Fox is describing it. Um, I've had a couple, not any time since I've known you, Dan, but I've had a couple of jobs where I didn't care for them, and I wouldn't say I so much dread going to them, but I wasn't looking forward to it. Um, I've never had what they call golden handcuffs, in which they're paying me enough
Ah.
to go when I despise it.
Mhm.
I've never been in
Mm.
that position, so once I would get to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore, I'd start looking for something else. Um, it sounds like Dr. Fox may have been in that scenario a little bit of golden handcuffs.
I call
Um,
it toxic security, but I think it's the same idea.
yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
perfect.
Yep.
Perfect. This question from Instagram, I definitely have to keep. Not even gonna list what gender they are. Keep them confidential as I can. Message me over the weekend. I've been with this company for 10 years. I'm thinking about leaving. It's a sponsor company. I want to start my own site. My problem is I have my base salary is 170K, and with bonuses and such, I get 200K. I've been in my job for 10 years, great company on the sponsor level, small sponsor, but I really want to do side ownership and I'm stuck. And I literally said, "You have golden handcuffs.
Mm-hmm.
It would take like 4 to 5 years for you to replace your salary, I think, as a site owner. That's if you're
Yeah.
successful."
So that's not entirely true. I like we have that one client, Dan, that you're aware of, that just sold their site and only did it for 2.5 years and started off research naive and received millions. She built a very successful site in a very short period of time. So
Okay.
I wouldn't say you absolutely will take you 4 to 5 years. I would say on average, you're probably looking at 3 years though. So
But
you
this
could
person doesn't want to quit the first 2 years. That's the difference between like our typical clients, right?
sure.
Oh
But
wow.
they would have to hire somebody, obviously, or
Mm-hmm.
find
Yeah. So it
fees.
would take longer. And then training. I mean, guys, I'm doing it right now. Like, it's very difficult to not just train staff. I think that's the easy part, but getting everyone to work well together on the same page. Like, it's all the intangibles too that we don't put on a. You guys are budget guys, right? We don't
Mm-hmm.
have a line item for creating a culture where everyone gets along on our
Nope.
budget. Like, that's overhead, right? But I mean, you can't just throw everything into overhead.
Nope.
So
Nope.
it's not easy to break even. Um,
That's well, and you're gonna have to make a choice. It's like you making all that money. Is that money making you happy? And if it's not, then maybe it's not the money you need. Maybe you need to
right,
follow something different.
right. And I, as a site owner, I don't know any different than I was a coordinator for like 6 months before I became a site owner. It's very like unusual luck. Um, Even when I was coordinator, I never really dreaded work. I mean, I was really young, so I would come in hungover a lot. Like, I would rather have been sleeping, but on some of those days. But I never dreaded like going to work. But then when I became a site owner, most of the days, even now, I love it. But there are some days where like, hey, we have like an 8 a.m. screening. Make sure you're there because the coordinators are still new. I wouldn't say I dread that, but it's not like I look forward to it. Like, oh yay, I gotta be there at 8. I'd rather show up at 10 when the
And what
screening's halfway done.
and what you're describing, obviously, what you're describing, you could not do as a site owner. But what you're describing, I think a lot of people take issue with in terms of just being employed, and that is to no extent is their time their own. So
Mm.
when you're self-employed, if you have to take a day off to take care of something, you can, right? You can make your arrangements so where
Yep.
you take care of these tasks on another day. When you're employed by another, that's not possible. And if you're trying to do this every other week, because me personally, I take oftentimes a day off during the week, kind of, not the entire day, but half the day to take care of personal issues.
To
And
test drive Corvettes, that's what he
yeah, that
does.
too. But like doctor's appointments and things that
Yeah.
you are difficult to get to when you're employed. And unfortunately, I have a lot of doctor's appointments. That's neither here nor there. But I take care of that business on Saturday and Sunday then, right?
Mhm.
That I was unable to attend to on whatever day of the week that was.
And
So,
in that, let's play that out further. That's your family time, right? Like Saturday and Sunday.
right.
Because if you're working all day Monday through Friday, you're basically sacrificing more of your family time to take care of like health things and
Mhm.
Yeah.
stuff that we don't consider. So there's a lot. And this is at the site level, guys. Like, we're talking about employment at the site level. At the CRO level, where you're traveling CRA,
Mhm.
it's gotta be compounded at least like 2 orders of magnitude more
Oh my
Oh,
more
you're
gosh.
working
difficult.
6 days a week for sure as a CRA. If,
Yeah.
if you're a employed CRA, not a contract CRA. If you're a direct
Mhm.
CRA, you're working 6 days a week.
Easily. And that seventh day, you're just trying to recharge a little bit. There's no productivity that seventh day.
I don't know how they do it. So this can go a lot of different topics, but let's get to some of these questions. How do I get into clinical research in the UK without experience? Abu, it's the same way as in the US. Find the
Mhm.
small sites in your area. I know they are in the UK. Approach them. I have a link. Message me for the link. Me and Monica did a video on this.
Mhm.
Pirana asks, this
That's
question
an
itself is
interesting
telling.
question. Yeah,
Yes.
I had an idea about so
How many years of experience is needed before opening a site for those listening? That's what the question is.
My answer would be Piranha. I wouldn't quantify that by years. I mean, you could be spending years doing something that wouldn't prepare you to open a site. You will know. You'll know when the time is right. When you encounter things at your employer or at a site, and you're like, okay, I know the answer to all of these things. And when that happens, regardless of how many years it takes, you're gonna know. Oh,
Yeah.
zero. There you go, Dave.
Well,
David
I'm
LaHaye
actually going
says
to add
zero.
in, as David said there, which I believe David did have zero experience when he started his site.
Mhm.
I think it's certainly doable with the no experience, but it's beneficial if you have some.
Some, but there is a point where it's diminishing rates of returns.
So, have you ever brought David on to interview him?
He doesn't want to. I've asked him repeatedly.
Okay.
David, I'm calling you out, man. It's been
I mean,
5 years now.
I love David's story. It's very
Well, I do too,
inspirational.
but and unfortunately, no one else gonna hear it except me and you and Chris.
Well, there you go. Sorry, David. Don't mean to call you out, but you are a pretty awesome guy.
Yeah, come on, David, let's do it. But here's the thing, guy. Okay, so if it's not experience, and I was saying there's a point where ideally it's coordinating experience, because if you want to make this practical, you want to go from being a coordinating employee to a coordinating site owner. That's like the easiest transition, the most practical transition. If you go from something really high up, like product manager at sponsor, which is what this person was messaging me about with the golden handcuffs, it's a lot harder to translate that skill set into let's get in there and start drawing blood, spinning tubes,
Our,
shipping packages,
our most
right?
common client outside of physicians is CRAs, though, right? But that's very similar to being a coordinator. I would say it's similar enough that
But it's still one step further removed.
it is, but there is no position closer to being a coordinator than CRA in terms of understanding what the functionality and operations are of research in terms of
Right,
that site level.
right. So if it's not years of experience, what it actually is it? Like, because like you said, Chris, one of our clients, zero experience, came in there within 2 years, sold her company for millions,
Yep.
right? Like, what was it about this person that made it work? It can't
Uh,
be just luck.
I think she got
You
a few
you
things
gotta have
right.
like street smarts maybe, or grit, or
Maybe.
Great.
So she's a nurse practitioner. She knew a number of physicians that she could work with, and the indication was correct, right? The therapeutic
yep.
indication for getting studies. There's a need. There was a need. So I think those three items came together appropriately for her, and she was able to run her site successfully or well enough so that she could get future studies from the same sponsors, and that's all it took.
But she was the coordinator in this role, right? In this new role.
Honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if she was or not.
Because if you don't have CRC experience, you either got to learn it on the fly and be okay with making mistakes and correcting them ASAP,
Hmm.
or hiring someone, which brings in a whole new set of challenges of
Mm-hmm.
managing personalities and all that stuff, which is also part of the site owner game that no one talks about,
Yep.
managing people.
Yep. Or knowing
So,
when to expand, or knowing what to invest in, or making those tough business decisions.
Which leads us into tech. And we're going to get to the rest of the questions, guys, but tech for sites. Every vendor with a VC backed infrastructure has a dream. We will make life easier for sites, or maybe they don't even think that way, which I think is a recipe for failure. Maybe they think we'll make life easier for sponsors, which has proven that doesn't work. You need site adoption for most of these things. So we will make life easier for sites. So there's two models. There's a free model Let's just try to get as many sites to use this. Like Versatrail.
Mhm.
Perfect example. Storing all your links to all your vendors. Versatrail is awesome. Chris, you guys got to try Versatrail, man.
Yep. I
But
like
it's
Mike in
free.
the group.
Mike and the crew. But then you got things like Creo as well, like pay eSource, but it makes everything easier. It has CTMS. You could build in your budgets, forecast, eReg, eSource, e-signatures, even e-consents, e-patient recruitment vendor portal. Like just just remind your patients through text automatically about their appointments. All like everything you need. And then you have in between like MedVector, where it's like free for sites, but they'll put like an iPad in front of different specialists' office and you can get referrals that way and do virtual visits. But sites still don't adopt these things. Like I would say 15% of sites maybe are early adopters in these kind of things, maybe. Then you get like regular sites like Chris, who's very practical and says, "Hey, you know what? Like, why do you not try tech early, Chris?" I guess that's the question for these things. Like, why not try to make the site more efficient? Is it because you think it's already pretty
Are you
stable
speaking
the
in
way it
terms
is?
of clients or
No, for
individuals?
like your site, like why not be an early adopter? Like I understand money's the big cost, right? But when it's like something free, you're still usually like skeptical and like what is
Well, I'm
it?
not the one using this tech, um, so it's not me that needs to buy in.
Ah, who is it? CRC, right?
Yeah, it's the staff. So I do run it by them occasionally. Not always. Not always when we're approached with something, but
Mm-hmm.
occasionally I do, and they tell me basically to go F myself.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
That's see, vendors need to hear this stuff. So it's not Chris you need to get after. It's the CRC.
Mm-hmm. I remember when Versatrial first came to me and I was trying to take it to that employer.
And you know, wait,
Uh,
Dan knows that what I just said is probably pretty close to reality, right, Dan? I mean,
I
I'm not exaggerating with F myself.
I'm a co-owner on this site, so I know who this person is, and yes, she would basically say that.
Yeah.
She's awesome though. She's been with me since like '05. Oh
Yep.
five, and she never wants to come on the videos.
So most of the time, CRCs who've been around for a while, they have been thrown so much tech by sponsors that if you try to show them something new that you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
bring in, they just look at you and say, "No, just I don't want to learn anything else. I don't want to try anything else." They're very
Yep.
closed down to the to trying to change their process. So it's a
Christopher
tricky thing.
Salty, Stephanie from Creo says Christopher Salty. CRCs love Creo. What say ye about this?
Yeah, I mean, some do. Um, I
Some
don't
do,
think
but ours
the one
doesn't.
I'm referencing, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
And that's so there's a trade-off of hiring, like experienced versus research naive. Like my CRCs at my site. So Chris and I own the same sites, but he manages 1.5, right? And I
Yep.
manage the other 1.5.
Yep.
Uh, my staff are like mostly all research naive. They're all going on almost like their first year, so they don't know life without these tech tools because I just integrate them all in. There's no options.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and Chris is different because she's been doing this for like almost 20 years, and she's actually a site owner as well. So it's tough to convince your employees
As
to try
as
new
the ex-
things, even if they're free.
as the expression goes, you can't teach old dogs new tricks.
You think that's true though?
Well, it is in this case.
Mm. I mean, it depends on how you define teach. If you put them in a corner and you said this is what's happening, they will learn, and we've done that before too.
Sure. I mean, you can force it on anybody, but you're going to get resistance, and you
Mm-hmm.
may even get a little bit of
Backlash.
uh, backlash, animosity, whatever the case might be. Right? They're just going to
Yeah.
resent. They'll resent you.
Yeah.
Do you think, Chris, this is a good one, and Dr. Fox? One of the things I've noticed, like my mistakes from the past, were I like to. My goal as an owner is to become hands off as quickly as possible, and that's actually there's like cons to doing that as well.
Mhm.
And one of those things is exactly what you're discussing, like the resentment. Like, oh well, it's easy for you to throw this tech down my throat. You don't do this stuff
You don't
anymore.
have to do it. You're not in my shoes. Yeah, yeah.
So
I've
now I
I've
make
seen
it a
that too.
point. Like I go into all these vendors. Like I use it just as much as they do. I answer queries, respond to leads from One End Health, get on Creo, like all this stuff. I try to do, and I'm debating with myself how long I'll keep doing it. But this time around for the site, and I think I'll always want to have like a little bit of hands-on, unlike my previous go rounds.
Hmm.
What do you guys think about this?
I I'm running into that too. So this is a really perfect example of what happened this weekend. This weekend we had a big community festival for autism, and I'm the CEO of this community festival, right? So uh, our organization is a small organization, so everyone is kind of like all hands on deck. Let's get this all done. So what happened was I was there pushing water bottles around, trying to set up tables, doing all this stuff, being on in the trenches, getting everything set up. And as a result, I didn't get to shake the hands or give the cards to the senators or the governor that was there or all of the other politicians or the people that I could have interacted with to try to help the mission grow. So I think that there is a pro to being on the foregrounds at all times because it's kind of like leading with your activity and what you do. But at the same time, just like what you said, if you don't have your farming system and your coordination, if you don't have someone else doing that, you don't have the opportunity to focus on advancing the mission or growing your company. You have to be there in the trenches. So
Yeah,
maybe you have to find a balance so that you can continue to foster the culture and respect of the people that are at your organization and have the time to integrate. I'm not saying be a hands-off leader because I think that's probably what people resent. They tell me what to do and they don't understand my problems.
right.
That's kind of what they do. But at the same time, maybe it's just good to communicate with everyone. This is what I am doing for you. This is how I am doing this, and have very good justification for the decisions made.
I agree.
So
I think there's a balance between working on the business and working in the business that owners need to figure out. Chris,
Mhm.
we lost your image, man. But
I turned it off because I had to eat something.
oh, how
The
polite of
Um,
you. Thank you.
the
yeah, nobody
official is
wants to
eating.
watch me eat. So, Dr. Fox, tell me a little bit about this your weekend. So that was for the what was that for?
I'm the CEO of the Champaign Urbana Autism Network. It's a nonprofit for autism. It's pretty much just a huge support network for the autistic community in Central Illinois. So
So
yeah,
must be a fairly well established foundation to have the governor and senators
mhm.
there.
This is their 12th annual visit. So they've been doing this for a long time. They've got a lot of good connections.
Oh, that's pretty neat.
Hmm. Yep. And I after this weekend, I think that if we can get the grants that I'm hoping we're going to get, this may be the last time we're going to do that event where we're going to be the ones hauling the tables and setting things up. I think that we may try to hire someone to do it next time so we can focus more on the mission.
Very nice.
So,
And this is a yearly event
yep,
in Illinois.
yep, yep. So does anyone know good old Champaign Urbana, Illini, the Big Ten, the big basketball team, the huge university? Really, really good, a good hub for the nation, really, the center of the nation.
Hmm. And before we started this, you were talking about autism, how it's becoming more prevalent. Was
Mhm.
there any discussion on why? Why is that?
We're not sure. We don't know why. We just know that some people are just saying, well, our diagnostics are greater, so we're more sensitive to detecting it. But
That would
I
make
mean,
sense.
like they're saying, like in the 1970s, autism prevalence was like 1 in 20,000. and I think just last year it was 1 in 58. So
Yeah, that's
we're
the same argument some make for the cancer. Like
yeah, yeah,
increasing
yeah.
cancer
It was always
rates.
there. We just never saw it before. That kind of a thing.
And do you
Um,
believe
Yeah.
that or no? Are you buying into that?
yes and no. I think that throughout the course of history, we've had people in academia, like a lot of the mathematicians and things like that, they were higher functioning autism. And there's some people that say that the autism was still there, but people were just masking it because they weren't accepted in society. There's people who didn't get jobs because they had autism, so they tried to hide it, or they hid it to protect themselves to get that job so they could survive. So
So,
yeah.
isn't autism oftentimes just a catch-all kind of diagnosis, though?
It used to be. They call it a spectrum for a reason now. It used to be like the Asperger's and a lot of the other things that were in the neurological. They call it ASD now, so autism spectrum disorder.
Mhm.
So they're defining it far better now, which is interesting if they're having a greater definition and they're saying that the prevalence is just a result of sensitivity for tests. That really doesn't make sense, because if they're becoming more specific, you'd think that that would counteract the sensitivity of the tests. But no, we're still increasing in prevalence across our community.
I have good news. During this live, my PI texted me back that he does see some autistic patients, so we can do that study.
Good.
So I'll be learning. Chris, have we ever done an autism study? I don't think so, right?
No, we haven't.
So this will be my first. I mean, look, 18 years of this, and you're always doing something new. That's one of the things about side ownership that, to me, never gets old. Like, there's always
Mhm.
something new.
I would
There's
agree.
always there's always like new paths to go down. Chris, Stephanie's not giving up from
Nope.
Korea. She says, set up a meeting between me and the person you're speaking about. We will see what I can do.
All right, I'll hit her up, Stephanie, and I'll get the same apple off. So
That's what I'm talking about,
we'll give it a
Stephanie.
try,
Good
though.
job.
Stephanie's on it. All right, let's get to some of these questions, and maybe we can touch more on this tech stuff, and even like maybe just like a little teaser for the future of CRA and CRC.
Yeah.
Um, Piranha says, I have transitioned from site coordinator to a CTA. I talked myself to getting a master's degree in clinical research management. It's overwhelming to think about where to get the PI and the sub-I and the whole setup. Chris, Dr. Fox? Overwhelming is an understatement.
Yep. Yep. So there's a lot behind that statement right there. We can learn it. We know what we can learn. You can get a master's degree, you can get the education, but you really have to kind of keep your ear to the ground and know the situations and the opportunities when they arise. Getting that perfect situation, that perfect storm where you can get the PI, you can get the facilities, you can put everything together to start that site takes a long time. It takes a long time to get that kind of a network and that research support structure into place so you can be successful. And it takes teamwork. You have to find a team. Doing that alone is very, very hard to do.
So I would just add on to what Dr. Fox was saying there. What you've described in your text there, Prana,
Piranha.
I don't think that's right. Prana. Um,
Prerana.
um, you're describing the easiest part of research, getting the PI, sub-I, and the site setup. That's the there's three steps to having a successful site. That's the first step. Next is getting a study, and third is getting patients for that study and executing the study correctly.
Mm.
And each of those steps in order get harder. So
Yeah.
you're just describing the easiest step of the three.
And Piranha, bad news. Okay. It never ends. Like the cycle, you got to continuously improve. And even more bad news, that last third step that Chris said, getting patients and then conducting the study properly, is actually two steps, because it's that conducting the study properly. Let me tell you, it's not easy. Every study's different. You have staff now. You can't possibly do it all yourself. It's a lot. So, this is back to our opening discussion of what makes a good site owner. It's someone willing to constantly change. Like, you cannot settle. Just because you get a PI, you think you could relax? You can't. What happens when that PI says, I don't want to do this anymore? Which happens a lot, by the way. Or what happens if that PI retires or gets
Mm-hmm.
sick? All right. Like, or gets audited and gets a warning letter. I mean, you're going to rely your whole business on one PI? No. So you've got to constantly be on the hunt, constantly adapt. And that's just the PI part. Now, what about the studies, patients? So, this is one of the things that I find interesting with MedVector. I actually think, Chris, you might like this too. MedVector is actually, the way I see it, it's not the way they intend it. I mean, it works. Like, they want you to do virtual visits with specialists in your communities. The way I see it is it's a Trojan horse for getting your future PIs like just started
Mm-hmm.
with research.
PI grooming. Yep.
PI grooming, it's a
Yep.
Trojan horse. Like, hey, you know what? Like, let's put this iPad on your desk. They're gonna pay you, blah blah blah. Now, after like 6 months of doing this, they're gonna be like, hey, well, how do I get on the other side of that iPad?
Mm-hmm.
What I gotta do? Certainly, you're not doing this for free. Then we have that discussion as opposed to just cold pitching like them, the idea. So I think MedVector, even though it's an unintended use, maybe they would just rather you have these iPads and never make them PIs, right? I think it's a
Mm,
Trojan
I
horse.
think Ted and Scott have talked about that. That's one of the intentions, especially they're working with groups like blackdoctors.org and a lot of the other groups to try to increase diversity in PIs.
Uh,
That was part of their intentions. And coming from someone like I've talked to so many doctors and they always call research just another expensive hobby. And it's a way of showing those investigators that research doesn't have to be an expensive hobby. It can really be a part of your practice. And you don't have to always be that ingrained PI to spend all of this money and time and effort to where how many doctors have you approached where you talk to them about research and they say I'm better off just doing my practice. I'm not interested.
I mean, the majority of them.
Yeah, most of them are like, yeah, I don't want to be a PI. I did it as a resident in med school. I saw how much work it
Hmm.
was, and there's a reason why I got out of academia. I've heard them all. And when you come up to them and you say, well, that's not what this is about. It's literally about allowing your patient access to trials, allowing you to be a healthcare. I'm going on a MedVector soapbox. We're supposed to talk other things. But what I did want to ask Dan is now that we're talking about, I'm so glad that Piranha asked this question and we talked about the cycle of being a site owner. Where in that cycle do you have time to add risk taking and innovation and things like that for your tech? Where would you add that into your cycle?
You have to understand the value prop first, whether it's free or whether it's paid.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if it's paid, you have to consider like, can you actually afford it, and then the value prop. But like, the value prop to me, like MedVector's perfect example. I was just introduced to this technology last week. I've heard the name. I've heard good things from you and Brad. So like, they had some brand equity with me already vis-a-vis you guys. But it wasn't until I had this conversation with the founder for an hour that I started thinking, okay, this is actually, I could use this to improve my business. And like, if I can't see that, I'm not gonna try to adopt, because who needs another thing to learn how to use and have your staff start using? I mean, nobody needs that. We're here to make money. We're here to get more studies, get more patients. Like Bianca says, Chris, you got a new fan in Phoenix. Bianca Garcia says, spot on, 100% on the 3 steps in the continuous cycle. That's the way I see it, man. I don't like to early adopt these things just for the sake of like sounding like it's cool, like, oh, amazing. No, I have to see the value like beforehand. So that is up to the vendors to show that value first. And a lot of these vendors, they don't have that pitch down right away. Like, they're not thinking like coordinators or like site owners. They're thinking like pharma. And you can't
Mm-hmm.
sell to a site talking like pharma does. We don't have the same timelines. We're not shooting at the same baskets. Nothing is the same between a site and a sponsor.
Well, and even so, let's talk about MedVector, talk about CRP, and talk about some other site-facing innovation. Those,
DSCS,
yeah,
site
yeah,
network, man.
those, yeah, those well-established sites, the ones that pretty much have a hold on the market, they're not going to, they're not going to innovate as fast as the smaller ones because they really, they don't want to risk the reputation they've gotten. They've got the pipeline, they've got the trials. They're more willing to, but they really don't have as much of an incentive as the smaller sites.
And they have more to lose.
Yeah.
That's the whole innovator's dilemma book, just reimagined for sites. Like, you became big because you were willing to risk more. Now that you're big, you're not willing to risk more because you're trying to protect what you have to not lose it.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, a smaller company is willing to risk more to displace you.
Yep.
So there's a balance between, like, as a site owner, you gotta constantly have these things. Like, when I first heard of MedVector, I thought, okay, they're here to put sites out of business. But now I understand it's not that binary. Maybe there's still a threat there, but it's not really their goal. Why not try to put myself out of business first by using some of these tools? So, and that's, this is why I wanted to have this discussion with you and Chris. Chris is one of the most pragmatic people I know in this space.
Thank you, sir.
And then you as and that's a good thing too. Like, we always tell these tech vendors, is this better than Excel?
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like a simple question, like that's ridiculous. Of course it is. Well, if you ask them how, MedVector's a bad example, but if you ask them how, they don't really have a good answer most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, sorry, Stephanie, but any kind of a CTMS software, right? They're innovative. They're doing a lot of things in the field. But even now, as we speak, they're still somewhat siloed. So your CTMS software doesn't interchange. Well, they're working on it with eReg and eSource and things like that. But let's talk about finances. This is another one that you can run into. Do CTMS softwares integrate with QuickBooks?
Mine don't. Creo doesn't, as far as I'm aware of.
A lot of them don't. There's still an interchangeable effect with the technology and the needs of the site on a business level. And I get it. The CTMS software platforms, they try to do these cool things, or even some of the online vendors, the portals that you have. Send your invoice through this, send your invoice through that. But then you get to a point where you have to manage 4 or 5 different systems to send all your invoices across all of your studies. So let's talk about interchangeability.
And Chris does it all. Chris does it all with Excel.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I used
right?
to.
What do you use now?
No, I mean, I still do it for Breakthrough and CRMD, but
Excel, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so then there's the question: well, why does everyone use Excel? And the answer is because everyone recognizes Excel. From the CROs to, Excel is like the universal language right now.
Well, also, it goes back to our original argument too, in terms of having to learn, new technology. Most people know how to use Excel.
Yep. So it's become a culture. It is ingrained in our society, and therefore it's just like the default.
Mm-hmm.
But how did it become the default? We didn't always have Excel spreadsheets. We used to have paper, or we used to do something else. How did Excel integrate itself into our society as the default?
Bill Gates came through and said, "Hey, we're changing."
1993.
Yep.
Right. I think when the first graphical user interface, right, which was I can't remember the name of it. It's before 95. What was the first one? 3.1 or something like that?
Linux?
No. Windows
95. 3.4, 3.1.
Yeah, 3.1 I think was the first window user interface.
Yep. And then
graphical, right?
Yep.
And then it improved substantially with 95, and there was no stopping Microsoft then. And I think at the same time they came out with Office 95.
But another
it's
thing that Bill
consideration.
Gates and Steve Jobs both did was they donated their computers to schools so that the
Mhm.
future generations would have that as part of their education. So
Yeah,
now
which
you've
is a
got,
smart play.
yeah, you've got future adults who are now like, oh yeah, I'm used to this and I'm willing to adopt it. So if you
And
really
another thing
want
they
to,
both did well, which the vendors today can learn from in our industry, is they made the user not have to think about what they're doing. Like, I mean, I just click on apps and things work. I don't know how to program anything. I don't know what it's doing. I barely know what a CPU is. But when I click this app, it just works. Like, there's an interface. It's very like user centric. And I
Mhm.
think that's what a lot of these vendors are trying to do, make things site centric. You don't need to know how it works and how it integrates with open API and all this stuff that they're trying to do. Bianca says that's why us small owners bring so much value in the industry. The network sites have to get approvals from everyone and their mama
Yep. Yes,
to try new
Bianca.
tech and new
Yes.
things.
How many times you, oh yeah, I've got to run that by the board of directors. I've got to run that by these armies of people. That's why, and it's kind of tricky in academia to get like innovation involved. But when it comes to the small site owners, he's like, hey, I'm going to talk to my partner and we'll let you know in a day that we can work on this. She's spot on.
Love Bianca. Bianca, I got to interview you. Like, just come on, message me. Let's do an interview. It's been a while.
Mhm.
Chris, anything to say about what Bianca just said?
No, I'm looking up Microsoft history. I
Oh,
don't like I don't like speaking incorrectly, so I'm looking for what I'm talking about here.
So to all the vendors out there, if you want to get your technology adopted, go talk to CRC Academy and see if they'd be willing to show it to the future generations of coordinators. And that way they would be more willing to accept it and utilize it on site, literally on site.
thank you for the plug. You're in the CRC Academy. What week are you guys on?
Week 9, I think.
Week 9 already?
Yeah,
What do you
we're
think about it so far?
overall it's doing really well. Good timing, perfect content. I think that there's going to be some spots in there for tech that, I mean, I think a lot of this was recorded in 2019 and even now
Yeah,
it might need to be
2020,
updated.
2020.
Yep. Talk to Monica. Ought to add Versatrial into there. We're trying to get Versatrial in to show the
And we've
students.
been trying to put Viva in there too.
Yeah.
We're working on that.
Yep. Sounds like Stephanie might be working with us for Creo. See if Creo can
Man,
work on
imagine,
that.
Chris, we can get all these vendors that we love into
Yeah,
integrated into the CRC Academy.
that'd be awesome. Just because I don't like being incorrect and giving people bad information, but Windows 3.1 came out in 92 and Microsoft Office came out in 1990.
You're gonna go to YouTube jail for saying that name, Dan. You know that, right?
Which one, Gates or
Microsoft.
Microsoft?
Yeah. They're gonna be like, you just did some privacy policy thing.
I can't risk it till May 10th.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't like where Chris was headed with the autism stuff. But thank God we took a sharp left.
Well, just to help with that, I
You were
am
fearful I was going to say what most
Don't
people
don't
fear.
don't
no,
say no more.
no
Say no more.
full support. I am a full autism community member. I'm working really hard to make autism friendly clinical research. So don't put Dan in YouTube jail because we're working on this to try to support our autism community.
I'm gonna join you soon, man. My PI said yes to this. That's how
Good.
it happens. Once you find a PI, you just text them. Hey, I got a study. You want to do this? Yes. Okay, let's go. Boom. We're gonna
We
have
offer
SSV.
we offer certifications to have autism friendly environments where you have an understanding of the needs for the people with autism, for the community to
We're gonna have to
understand.
consult with
Yeah.
you on that.
Yeah.
Me, you, and the staff soon.
Yeah. We're working on ways to do that. So that'll be good.
Okay. Do you want to touch on the future? Like,
Yes. I had a dream. I had a dream last night, and I'm just sitting here thinking, like, I'm waiting for it. People are doing all these things with ChatGPT.
I love
They're
it.
they're
Personally, I
asking
love it.
ChatGPT to write their contracts. They're asking them to go on dates. They're asking them for pickup lines. I don't know if you saw that one, but I wonder when they're going to come out, and then maybe they already have, but they're saying we're going for a ChatGPT CRA. I'm waiting for it. And so then the question was, what do you think tech can do in a CRA role? And what do you think we can't program certain things in a CRA to do that job?
Currently, You still can't. The question is, how quickly can it come? I think it's quicker than I ever thought with playing around with ChatGPT.
Hmm.
So I'm working on my next book, and ChatGPT is an incredible research assistant. I mean, I would have had to pay like an army of researchers to like come up with this data just so I could figure out what's relevant, what's not, what should go in the book, where should I dig deeper. ChatGPT's replaced that. It's just me and the AI doing it when I have time. It's I could already see just copy and paste the protocol into the interface. Eventually it's going to be uploaded, but right now it's like copy and paste the IE criteria and then ask it like it's we're not far from where it can do that, right? If we're talking source data verification, it could probably already do it. It's just the interfaces like we discussed. But if we're talking the more valuable source data review, which is really what the CRAs get paid for, I used to want it like even a year ago to say, man, we're far away from that. Playing around with this thing, I'm starting to think we're not that far away from that.
That was my thought. You could easily do some kind of a review of EDC over protocol, over even schedule. And this CRA GPT could identify windows, deviations, inclusion, exclusions, include it with the
Yep.
medical records. So I think on an information comparison level, it's very possible this could be a tool for CRAs to be more efficient, to do what they're doing, to
Yep.
have because because every CRA we talk to, they're slammed, they're stressed, we talk about the Mondays, the Sunday blues. They're going through that right now because there's so much pressure on them. Is it possible that this kind of technology could alleviate that pressure and allow them to provide quality services? And
Even sites, man.
yeah.
So here's a practical thing I've used ChatGPT for last week, and I've been using it for this purpose for the last month. Whenever I come across, I have one study where there's like 55 exclusion criteria. It's insane study. I'm asking myself for rationale. In the past, I would have emailed the medical monitor. Who knows what kind of answer they would have given me? I could ask the PI. Usually, the PIs don't know these things. They're practical community clinicians. They're not scientists, really. So I've been asking ChatGPT, hey, this is the investigational product. It's a known compound. So ChatGPT has info
Mhm.
on it. I ask it, what's the potential rationale for this
Mhm.
exclusion criteria? And it knows, man.
Mhm.
And then I could dig deeper. Well, tell me why. And then it gets to like we don't know yet. We're still studying that, and it's like now I see, okay, this is the reason why we do the study. But it helps me explain the rationale of like when patients ask,
Mhm.
well, why do I have to wash off of this? This has nothing to do with this indication. I just let them know, hey, this is why. This is one of the things they're thinking, and I'm getting that from these language models. Like it's
Mhm.
incredible. I'm already using it on an almost daily basis.
Did you see that demonstration where you tell Chat GPT to make you a PowerPoint slide presentation about something?
No, but
So
I'm that's
it
insane.
well, no, you're like so. I think the comparison I saw was write me a PowerPoint presentation on the colonization of Mars, and it gave you like 7 different options, all of the different ways, and you say, I like this, but make it a table or make this a bulleted list. Boom. So could imagine doing that for SIVs. Here's the protocol. Write a presentation.
Wow. I mean, yeah, I could totally see that getting
So,
done.
so and I think you're still going to have someone driving Chat GPT. So you're still going to have the CRAs. They're still going to need to be there providing guidance and oversight. But I wonder how much of this could be utilized as a tool to try to help our industry be more efficient.
I think it's going to displace the bottom 20% of the underperformers, like the people slacking. Hopefully, it eliminates the fake CRAs.
Hmm.
It might make the problem worse, though, because if like a fake CRA with ChatGPT is
Yeah.
actually more dangerous.
Yeah,
than
yeah, because
than
now they
before.
kind of accredited themselves with the information, the data. So that
And I
there's.
haven't even messed with the plugins. Like they release
Yeah.
plugins. I've just been using the chat interface and copy and paste.
Hmm.
I haven't messed around with like integrating with other apps. That's next.
Yep.
I mean, this is going to be incredible stuff, guys. And I think sites can use it to their advantage. I've been using it to my advantage to help explain patients. You know how when you have a new study, you're always looking for like what's the best selling point, and the sponsor never tells you. They're like, oh, well, this is the 40-page ICF. Well, then you're like, okay, but what's like the actual pitch? Your PI should know. Okay, well, he doesn't. So thanks. So then I just put it in. Like I go on a deep dive on the IP,
Hmm.
like deep dive, like 30 to 60 minutes of, and then I figure out I can come up with like a good pitch to the patient, like pros,
Hmm.
cons.
Yeah.
That's how I've been using
Recruitment.
it.
Straight up
Yep.
recruitment.
Yep.
So.
Chris, you've been playing with it? ChatGPT?
No, not really.
Chris, it's coming, man. It's already here.
Yeah, it was. I watched a bunch of different YouTube videos on the dangers of ChatGPT.
It's definitely a lot of dangers, but
Oh yeah. There's
I
some
think
underlying risk, but you just have to utilize it
Underlying,
in certain
I
ways.
was watching
the
where
politics
somebody,
are bad.
not just the politics, but even the justice system.
Oh
I,
yeah.
I was watching where somebody faked a video and was able to sue somebody else over it.
The
And,
deep fakes are gonna be insane, but
Hmm.
yeah,
I like to focus on like the positive. Like as a site owner, like how can I make this practical? Like even like making a recruitment flyer. I've had it do that, like the wording, right? Not the
Hmm.
design, but there's ways to do the design too. So it's very interesting. Like I think the CRA role is gonna change. I think there's gonna be a new category of skill called AI prompts. Like, how good are you at prompting the AI? How efficient are you at extracting info from the AI for practical purposes? I think that's something next. Maybe last question before you guys good with that, or then we'll
Hmm.
have our closing thoughts. Moga Lang, can someone please talk about how to land a clinical research internship or entry level job? It's hard out here without any experience. All I have is a medical science. Listen to this, the way this is phrased. I know you like linguistics a lot, Dr.
Hmm.
Fox.
all I have.
All I
Reducing
have,
reducing experience down to, it's like, no, there's no such thing as all. The fact that you got a medical science degree is a huge accomplishment, and I'm very proud of you for going that route. And never say that that's not enough. Now you just have to combine that with certain things. I mean, Dan and I, we had a really cool conversation on a podcast about this that's still kind of fresh in my mind. But Dan, what do you have to say about that? You had really good comments.
yes, I can tell. I do this like 20 times a day. If I miss you, I'm sorry. Just keep messaging me. I can tell now within just a sentence like this why you're having problems, right? No employer wants to be like your rescuer. They want you to provide value. They don't want to save you in your career journey. Like when I read this, all I have is a medical science degree, but even that is not enough. Let me just be honest with you right now, Amo Galang. When I see that as a side owner, I think this person, the first challenge that they're gonna get at the site, they're gonna have this kind of defeatist attitude as well.
Mhm.
I don't need that. You need to flip that framework in your head. You have a medical science degree, like Dr. Fox just said. It's a matter of how you apply it. Like, do you know how many non medical science degree candidates get hired by sites on a daily basis and they wish they had one? Oftentimes, it's just that can do attitude. And from your comment, not to, I mean, this is like just generic for a lot of them that I get. Your comment doesn't say can do. It literally says I can't, actually.
Yep. I and I'll just for a complete assessment of what I saw there, it looks like, I think Dan was saying maybe defeatist. It sounds like you've worked really hard and you're frustrated that you don't have a return on your investment yet, and therefore you're becoming kind of flustered. You don't understand that you did XYZ, you did everything you were supposed to do, and it's not coming true. I would encourage you to just be confident, display a level of confidence. Like, I am here to help you. I have this. It's okay to be proud of what you've done, and it's okay to shed a light on what you have accomplished and what you can do for your employer. That's just an initial assessment, just from that one statement that you wrote.
Yeah. It's a matter of just taking your skills and presenting it to the site owner in a much better way. Like that, when I'm looking at you, when they're looking at you, they're like, okay, how can this person come in tomorrow and contribute right away? And the more of a can't do attitude you project, the less they think you can do for them in the short term. And
So,
nobody wants like a long term project. Even the CROs don't want a long term project. They want people to come in, a little hand holding, but then you're ready to go. And so, what say you, Chris, about this? I know you were interacting with ChatGPT just now, but what do you think
Sorry, I got
about
a
this?
text.
Did you hear
No,
Amogalang's question?
no, I was not following the
Okay,
conversation.
you're a site owner. You read this. What do you think? Potential CRC.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty simple. I mean, if somebody wants to offer free labor, and I'm more than happy to give them an opportunity.
But what about their last sentence, though? A crying face and all I have is a medical science degree, but even that is not enough.
Well, they just don't seem too assured of themselves, right?
I was
Lacking,
thinking the word confidence. You need some
right? Lacking. I was
confidence.
just going to say
Yeah.
lacking a little confidence. Um, I- you know, that wouldn't change if I were the site owner that she approached. That wouldn't change my opinion in any way, other than this person doesn't seem too assured of themselves or confident in themselves. Um, but happy to give anybody an opportunity if they want to offer free labor.
Yeah. Amogalang, send me your resume. I'll see if there's some sites in your area that I could connect you with. But you got to reframe it.
Yeah.
I would take your comment, okay, copy and paste it in the ChatGPT and say, make this comment,
Confident.
write this comment in such a way that someone would want to hire me.
Hmm.
You'd be amazed. If I can't copy and paste this, it's an image. Otherwise, I
Well,
would
it
right
doesn't
now.
really need to be changed much. Just I
Hmm.
have just remove that all, right? I have a medical science degree, and I would like to offer my services to you.
Yeah,
You're speaking to
and
a
even
site
take it
director, site owner.
a step further. I can make recruitment flyers based on your informed consent that I can distribute to physician offices in the area. I mean, if you have
Yeah,
medical science degree, you know the pros and cons of these drugs, and if not, you have ChatGPT and Google to kind of help you.
I
Hmm.
mean it's real simple. You go up to somebody. I want to gain a working knowledge of operations at site level and research. I have a medical license, so I believe I could be well suited for anything you would like me to work on at your site. Again, just want to learn the inner workings of this. Um,
Yes.
Now, did you see what Chris just put there? That is a perfect recipe. This is what I have. This is what I can do for you. This is what I have. This is what I can do for you. This is the benefit you will gain.
yeah,
Do that.
Yes. And
and
it's the
That's.
then
opposite of what
I,
Amogalang said.
I would add one other thing. I'm happy to work for you for free for a while. If you're pleased with my service, I would expect to be hired at some point, but we can have a conversation about that later.
That confidence, Chris, people don't know this story. The first day I met you,
Hmm.
because of this guy named Don, who was my site director at my other site.
Hmm.
Chris came in. We had a SSV.
Dan still teases me about this.
Yeah, we had this. Check this out, Dr. Fox. So we had the site selection visit, and Don, who was my site director for my San Bernardino office, he said, "Hey, I got this guy that I know from another industry, and I think he's got what it takes. He's a go getter, and I think he can be a good CRC. I was like, all right, man. I mean, you're the site director. If you think so, I trust you. Bring him to the SSV Monday, and I'll talk to him after.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did the SSV. It went well, I think. And then
Yeah, it went well. Got the study.
we got to study. And then Chris, at the end, I was leaving. I was like, all right, cool. I didn't even really talk to him, I don't think.
Didn't know crap about research. This was my first exposure to
Chris
research.
didn't know anything, but did I even talk to you? Like, or I just wanted to leave, right? I
No,
was like,
no, we said hi to one another, and that was about it.
yeah. So, like, I didn't
Probably
get
was
to
next
know him
question.
or anything. But I was leaving, going back to the car. Chris ran out there and probably, I mean, he would have probably been hired anyways, but he didn't know that. So he came out there and he said, hey, you know what? Like, I don't remember the exact thing he said, but I just want to let you know when I put my mind to something, I never fail at it. And I was like,
Yeah, that's pretty
who is
accurate.
this guy?
That's bold, man. And now
And
look,
I
you've got Corvettes.
I think
So it
that's
must have
true
worked.
of anybody. I honestly believe that to be true of anybody.
But when
Honestly.
I was like, all right, okay, thanks, man. We'll see what we can do. And when I got in the car, I was just kept thinking to myself, either this guy's like so full of crap, or he means it. And I was like asking Don, and he's like, yeah, no, that's the way he is. So I bring up that story because it's a Mogalang. It's like a night and day difference. Like, confidence
Yeah.
is key.
I mean, the one thing I could say is just don't think of yourself as a victim ever.
Ah,
So
Yeah, it's very
victimization
prevalent today.
it's a big trap.
don't
And
get me
when I read
canceled,
that,
man.
it's I've done all of this and there's nothing I can do. I've lost, literally loss of control, loss of what you can do to help the situation. And just never ever think of yourself as a victim. You're taking this path for a reason and everything will work out, but you cannot give up. You
Right.
absolutely cannot give up. You have to be persistent.
And with that being said, any closing remarks? We've gone over an hour when I wanted to do 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah, so much for 30 minutes.
So
But with you guys, it's
I got
impossible.
a
And with
comment.
me.
Dan was teasing me, as he usually does with that statement, but I honestly believe that's true of all humans. So long as you don't have a mental incapacity of some sort, mental retardation or mental illness, I think if you apply yourself to something 100% effort, give it your best effort, you will succeed. I believe that
Well,
with humans.
yes, but then you throw in things like entitlement, which is not a
Again, that's not applying
disability.
yourself if that's in the back of your mind.
Mm,
I'm entitled to this. No,
Right, but the
you're not
human
entitled to
psyche's
anything.
the human psyche is more complex. It's not binary like that.
Well, I'm just saying, if you apply yourself 100%, you'll succeed.
Yes.
I think most people.
I don't know. Maybe that's a good cliffhanger. Let us know in the comments, guys, what you think. Okay, I'll go along. Let's end this on a positive note. Let's read this. Chris is covered, completely smothered by your comment. Thank you for the advice. I'm sorry if I sound negative. I just have been frustrated with sending job applications for over a year, but I'm keeping the faith. Don't send job applications. Go in person. Don't send job applications. Go in person. Listen to Dr. Fox podcast where I'm on saying this exact same thing. I do online free courses too, which I believe will help me get research knowledge. I volunteer at a local clinic. I
Yep.
still send job posts even
Just
when
keep
I am
doing
this
it.
frustrated because, like you guys said, no one owes me a job, and I understand that I need to work for it, but it gets depressing sometimes. Most research sites, and then I lost the rest of it. But message me. I have a video I did with Monica on like an hour on just how practical things you can do, and now you can integrate ChatGPT into it. That might be my next one.
Yep.
Come on, let's get this. Enough of this. A year clicking links. Go in person to clinics in your area. It would have
Yeah.
been much more better ROI.
And you might fail a time or two, but eventually you'll succeed.
You'll fail 9 out of 10 times. Who cares?
But you'll eventually succeed.
Dan,
Who
did you get to read my
cares?
book yet?
No, man, but I need to. It's on my desk. Where is
That's
this
how I was
thing?
just. Yeah, I was gonna
Oh,
say.
aspartame's bad. This
Yep.
one. From breakthrough to biotech. Where is it? Dark remedy. Things to get me canceled.
Man,
And then this
there
one.
it is.
Okay.
Yep. So
Live
a lot of what
like
you were
a career
saying.
cowboy. How to successfully navigate the great professional frontier in the wild.
It is the
Well,
wild. It's
Dr.
a
Fox
wild,
is your
wild west
field
out
guide.
there.
Dr.
Yeah.
Fox is your field guide. He's got your binoculars. He said, look at that bird right there. Look at that red one. Look at that blue one.
Yep.
You know,
And
that
here's
one's going into
yeah.
that tree. That one's going into a bush. You know, where do you fit into this?
This is the trail you take. Follow the pathfinders.
Yeah. And now I forgot what I was going to say, but I have good ideas for the next video.
Well, what
Right.
are we going to say? I got to go.
No
I got to
worries.
go too.
So
We all got to go. But thank you,
Same.
guys. Look, Dr. Fox, follow him, right? LinkedIn underneath that podcast. Amoga Long, message me. I'll send you that podcast link and I'll send you the video I did with Monica. You need to subscribe to both. Chris, you can't subscribe to him even if you wanted to. So I don't know what you're going to do. You just get him when you get him. That's it. Right?
Limited quantities is good.
he's the
I like
official.
that, Chris. He's official. Thank you guys both. Have a good Monday. Like, subscribe, comment, share.
All right.
Good week, everybody.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
You don't have to be on